If we could, I'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I appreciate everyone being here this evening. First item on our agenda, it's for me to move this back. First item on our agenda is to establish a quorum of our board team. We have all of our board team members here, so I appreciate everyone being here. Our next item is our invocation. We're honored this evening to have Chris Curran, the pastor at Southland Baptist Church, who's also he's kind of new to San Angelo. His wife's a teacher, a PE teacher at Holloman. Her name's Sarah, and he's got a couple of daughters, one at Central and one at Lee. So, Chris, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Let's say a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, God, children are precious in your eyes, and they are close to your heart. Lord, as we gather to do business here tonight, God, I just ask that you would give wisdom to every man and every woman in this room, and every decision that is made would go in the best benefit for our kids. Lord, I thank you for each of these people who spend their time investing their careers and their volunteer time in the lives of our students and our children, for we know there's an eternal reward with that. Grant them wisdom, and may all we do and say bring you glory and honor. We pray these things in our Lord Savior's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Our next item is our pledges. So we've got some great young people here from Bonham. If they'll start coming forward. Come on. I'll introduce them. So we have Camden Okerstrom, Archer Rogers, Keegan Stockton, and Avalon Rogers. So if everyone will stand. Y'all hang on. Avalon, y'all hang on. If some of the parents want to come up and take a picture, that'd be great. Keegan's got a nice shiner, so he said he ran into someone's elbow, so. Thank y'all for being here. We appreciate y'all. I'll read our script before we get started. Good evening and welcome. As President of the Board of Trustees of the San Angelo Independent School District, I'd like to welcome all of you who are present at tonight's regular board meeting. I also welcome those of you who are watching the tape of this meeting on our public access channel, Channel 4. We appreciate your interest in our students. All items that will be discussed at our meeting this evening have been previously posted as required by state law. Also, as you may be aware, our board meets a minimum of 2 times per month, and most, if not all, the items on our agenda this evening have been previously discussed at an earlier pre-agenda board workshop. As members of the San Angelo Independent School District's Board of Trustees, we're here to set goals, listen to reports from our superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the school district. Please keep in mind that our meeting is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public and not a meeting of the public. However, with that in mind, we have an item on every one of our meeting agendas that allows anyone present who wishes to speak to our board team the opportunity to do so. I will make certain that we give everyone an opportunity to speak on any item not listed on our agenda. Additionally, prior to taking any votes, I will ask audience members if they would like to make any comments. Anyone wishing to make comments on an agenda item should do their best to limit their comments to 3 to 5 minutes. In compliance with Texas state law, these proceedings are recorded and will become a part of SEISD's permanent legal record. In order that the tape might adequately reflect the proceedings, I ask that you please refrain from talking while others might be speaking, and I also ask, as I remind my fellow board team members, to please turn off or silence their cell phones at this time. Again, it's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. Thank you for taking the time to join us here this evening. We appreciate your interest in the activities of our students and the business of our school district. Our next item is actually item 4, which I just referred to. Anyone wishing in our audience to make comments to our board team on items not on the agenda, now would be a great time for you to come forward. I see no one wishing to do so, so we'll move to item 5, which is the approval of our minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Dindal and a second from Mr. Gallegos to approve the minutes of our October 9th, 2018 Special Finance and Pre-Agenda Board Workshop and our October 15th, 2018 regular board meeting. Are there comments or questions concerning our board minutes from any of our board team members? Any public comment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 6, the report section. Our student enrollment report for the 10th Monday of school. I believe we were, like 3 students up compared to the same time last year, which is good news. So we appreciate the confidence of the community and letting us take care of your children and do the best job we can in educating them. Next report is a 6 weeks average daily attendance report, which is up significantly from last year, up about 1.8%. So we appreciate, most of y'all in the room know this, but many in the public might not. We get paid based on average daily attendance, so it's important that students come to school. So for us to be well over 96% is good news, so we appreciate that as well. Our next item is an update on academic progress, and Dr. Ritter, I think, is going to review our strategic plan for this year and beyond.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lehman and Dr. Dutloff, members of the board. Happy to bring to you this strategic plan in final form. We've spent several months in developing and then looking in draft form and receiving final feedback to finalize our plan here. Our strategic planning process, I'm just going to spend some time tonight just reviewing again the process that we followed in developing our strategic plan, people involved, and then go through briefly to touch on the objectives and the categories with the strategies and action plans that we have been talking about over the last year. Your strategic plan one-pager, you have another one of those provided at your seat tonight as well, and a copy of the PowerPoint here for you to follow along. So in our strategic planning process, starting in August of 2017, going through finalization in July 2018, we started with a board meeting where we developed beliefs, vision, and plan categories, August 2017. Then in November, we moved into the 2-day retreat, developed our mission, objectives, and strategies, training of our action team leaders, who were all people who led each area of the strategic plan categories. Had our action team kickoff celebration also in November. And then the action teams went to work and pulled together their committees, their groups that worked on their action teams from November through March of 2018, finalizing in a 1-day retreat with approving our action plans in July of 2018. And since July, we have been just reviewing our draft, making sure that everyone is aware of and understanding the draft of our strategic plan for finalization tonight with the acceptance by the board. Our strategic planning process involved approximately 150 school personnel and community members. Through the strategic planning team, there were 14 action teams with 6 to 10 members each and a leader. The definition of strategic planning is the means by which an organization continually recreates itself toward extraordinary purposes. And in our partnership with Dr. Jenny Preston, she worked closely with our team and our district for over a year to help us through this process with her direction. The strategic plan elements, our beliefs, there are 5. the vision and mission, 6 strategic objectives, 14 strategies, and 18 action plans. The categorical framework, these are the categories that we worked in, and there were teams in each of these areas with a team that worked on the strategies and the action plan for these. And they are teaching for learning, innovation, human capital, funding and finance, facilities, and communications community involvement. And these were determined at the board workshop when we started working on our strategic plan with input from the community as well. So getting into the details a little bit further, I'm going to go through each of the strategies. The first one being teaching for learning. Excuse me. Our strategies for teaching for learning are to provide focused learning for instructional leaders to develop engaging student work and to develop engaging work to meet the unique needs of all learners. The action plan, developing, understanding, and implementing the teaching for learning plan, developing partnerships to enrich student learning and success, and the collaborative design of engaging work. So the teaching for learning strategy area through the action plan, it incorporates the work that we're doing with curriculum and instruction and taking the state curriculum, putting it in a framework of our scope and sequence that we've developed through our teaching for learning plan for our district, providing teachers with resources, providing them with instructional activities to use with our students. Also, in developing those partnerships, as we have talked about, and with your investment and focus, working with Scholastic, Math Solutions, also with our MAP testing, which is the measures of academic progress, to have data for us to really be able to track our success in all of these areas. And lots of work also, you hear us talking about working on design of engaging work for our students. So we are heavily into that work as well with our teachers and administrators. So in the strategy of innovation, here we are providing students opportunities to discover their passions, build a culture of innovation, and build capacity within to support an innovative district. The action plan for the innovation strategy involves engaging learning experiences that promote discovery and exploration, cultivation of new ideas, and building trust in our learning community. And here I think about, again, it incorporates all of these, but when we refer to our San Angelo ISD learner profile that was developed really with this innovation in mind as we develop our students into more effective communicators and collaborators, critical thinkers, and creators. And so innovation is a very important component. The strategy of human capital, designing innovative and flexible training processes for our staff, developing creative recruiting strategies, or the 2 strategies for human capital. And the action plan involved the creation of a professional learning council to advise in designing training, as well as identifying and recruiting exceptional candidates. We know that this is something that we talk about. Matt Kimball, who is our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and our whole team work in these areas. And this action plan, these are some components that we will begin working on in our district, and over the next 3 years, develop this action plan. We know that this is sometimes can be a struggle in recruiting exceptional candidates, but we are really focusing on that as we go out and recruit, and also working very closely with Angelo State University, trying to build that partnership. And right now, we have students observing, student teaching. We provide clinical teaching training for them during the school year this year as part of this plan, so that we're training students who are going into the field before they ever even graduate to help develop those partnerships to have the best teachers possible in the classrooms for our kids. So in the area of funding and finance, forming collaborative partnerships for the purpose of increasing funding, and develop a plan of action to establish fiscal priorities aligned to the district's mission. And under that strategy, this is the action plan: to strengthen relationships with local businesses, to communicate district needs and partnering in funding projects, to expand our People Make the Difference campaign to include San Angelo ISD alumni at both of our high schools, and so people who graduate from our high schools and go on to have successful careers, that we highlight those and we bring them back to talk to our kids, and also to develop with funding to try to develop a type of campaign so that we can have like a foundation for alumni to donate to. Incentive programs for student and teacher attendance, as we know, and we talked earlier about how our funding in our district is tied directly to our student attendance. So it's very important that we do everything we can to increase, maintain our student attendance. And teacher attendance, of course, we know is important because those kids want to come to school when they know their teacher's going to be there. And so we are looking for ways to do that as well. And lastly, to align district and facility expenditures to the learner profile. We have talked about this, how we are using our learner profile to help guide our decisions in our funding and finance decision-making. So the next strategy, facilities. So 2 areas here: to prioritize facility needs and to develop a plan to pursue funding, with the action plan of creating a district facilities review committee to advise and guide decision-making and priorities, and to also create a district finance committee to pursue funding and facility improvements. Dr. Jeff Bright spoke about this last week with you in the workshop and talked about how this is something that we will be taking on in the next few months, probably, in developing these committees to start the process of working through how we are looking to pursue funding and facility improvements and opportunities. And lastly, the strategy of communications and community involvement, how we are engaging schools and businesses in purposeful interactions that increase awareness and opportunities for students. How we inspire families to collaborate with community partners to meet the needs of their children, and that we communicate, engage, be responsive to, and seek input and participation from all stakeholders. Specifically, the action plan here is to collaborate to increase overall civic capacity of San Angelo ISD, to create and maintain routine opportunities for whole district involvement, and to create and maintain effective communication systems among all stakeholders. And I will say here a highlight of this, and this is what I'm going to highlight next. An example of that is our Community-Based Accountability Advisory Council. So we had our first meeting of our Community-Based Accountability Advisory Council last week on Wednesday, had over 80 people here present participating, and it was a wonderful experience. We had students involved, community members, many of whom were parents, teachers, administrators, again, many of whom are community members and parents. So lots of very involved people who are working together to prioritize the needs of our district so that we can best serve our students. So these are just a few pictures of the group. They worked through questions guiding them to determine the priorities in our areas of strategic improvement that we are going to be focusing on as priority areas. So I think we found it very, honestly, very refreshing and amazing how much the students who participated had to provide to that process. And honestly, I think we were also very proud of the contributions that they made following right along with Learner Profile, because they were truly communicators and collaborators through that process and were very willing to be open about their opinions and ideas and contributions. It was a phenomenal group, and those students will participate. This is a 2-year council, and the purpose really is so that we can look at how we are better serving the needs of our students in this district. Taking it so it's not always just focusing on one test, on our STAR test. That's a component and a piece that we pay attention to, but that we're listening to our community and determining what our priorities need to be and how we will hold ourselves accountable to the needs of our community. So for our strategic plan, these 18 action plans implemented over 3 to 5 years. Teaching for Learning had 4 action plans, Innovation had 3, Human Capital 2, Funding and Finance had 4, Facilities had 2, Communications and Community Partnerships had 3. And a little more about community-based accountability. So, and this is how I wanted to end our conversation about the strategic plan, because it all works together. Our strategic plan is how we will get there. That gives us the direction for our community-based accountability. And our Community-Based Accountability Advisory Council will advise the district in next steps and in prioritizing the work with that involvement of this group. It establishes a social contract between the district and the community it serves. It asks for what and to whom do we need to be accountable? What are the hopes and dreams we have for our students? When we asked that question on Wednesday night, it was very clear that this community is very involved and has great high expectations and also very supportive of our school district in getting there. With the focus always to benefit students, celebrates all the ways students are smart, prepares all students for an uncertain future rather than a past that will never again exist. That really became the conversation in these groups on Wednesday, and that becomes the conversation that will propel us through this work. I will be having regular updates as we continue with our advisory council work and bring those forward to the board after each of those council meetings. So what are the next steps? Tonight, the board accepts our strategic plan. Then our superintendent, Dr. Detloff, assigns a year to begin for each action plan. We strategically determine, and that's what that input was on Wednesday night, for us to determine what needs to be prioritized and brought forward for priority work for year 1, year 2, year 3, maintaining all of it as we go, but that we cycle through and continue revisiting for that improvement process. The superintendent assigns an owner of each action plan. Dr. Detloff also determines the evaluation system of the strategic plan, and the strategic plan becomes part of the district plan, campus plan, and other plans that we submit as a district, so that there is nothing that remains in a silo. All of it is working together, very purposeful and intentional to meet the needs of our students. Then annual updates are held in the spring of each year, where we will review data and determine the effectiveness of our plan and our strategies and our action plans, and if we need to tweak them, what we need to do to, again, continue that continuous improvement cycle. So lastly, this is just a quote by Stephen Covey, that an empowered organization is one in which individuals have the knowledge, skill, desire, and opportunity to personally succeed in a way that leads to collective organizational success. So that is our goal through our strategic planning process, and that wraps up our strategic plan. Are there any questions or comments regarding our strategic plan?
Any question? Yeah, Amy, go ahead.
I have more of a comment than a question. I just wanted to tell you how much I've thoroughly enjoyed being part of this process and having the opportunity to work with the board and the admin team and members of the employees of the district and members of the community. And it's just been such a great learning experience I think for all of us. And it's added a lot to our district, I think, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it does for us in the future. So thank you for all your work.
Thanks.
Well, I would echo that, because I was in part of the strategic plan early on, and then I was also asked or participated a little bit last week on the community-based
Council?
accountability, and it's been very interesting to see those that are participating. I'm very proud of the community members that are participating, and as well as getting to know some of our teachers and administrators that I don't usually see. And I echo what you said, in the small group sessions we had, it was sometimes our, even a sophomore student, we had a sophomore student from Lakeview that was, had some very good points that were very illuminating to the rest of the group. So I appreciate you inviting those students to participate also. So, and that's good because we're having comments about how they think they need to be evaluated. And so I appreciate all the hard work that you put in on this for over a year now. So I look forward to seeing the results of this also.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Parker. Any other comments? Dr. Detloff?
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. I just wanted to thank Dr. Ritter and her curriculum instruction staff, as well as our executive directors, for taking a leadership role in the strategic planning. I think what I'm most proud about is the broad community involvement. Also, the student voice is certainly inspiring to us, and having the broad community involvement really, I think, helps focus the building blocks on what we're about in our district, and that's really to provide an engaging and inspiring education for all, to make certain that our students are ready for the future. So these, really the initiatives, they overlay nicely with each other, and so we don't have any outliers in the district, and all these are building blocks towards a common goal. So I just want to thank you and your staff for spearheading this. The community-based accountability meeting last week was wonderful, and I think it will lead us to a great success. So thank you for all your work, and thank you for administrators for your participation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Detloff.
Dr. Ritter, I have a question. How many members are in the Community-Based Accountability Advisory Council?
We have 80 who
Okay,
are,
you said that, I think.
yes.
So that we had 150 initially. So how are we going to continue to be in contact with that group from an accountability standpoint?
We will, and some of them are some of the group, but I wanted
Right.
to kind of have a little bit of a broad sweep, I guess, of inviting some other folks who had not been a part necessarily of the strategic planning process. The community members who were here on Wednesday night, and again, they'll be involved in this for the 2-year period, sitting on the council, are going to, all of us, the whole group is going to guide the district's efforts in the next steps of community forums. And we're planning on 2 through the school year, one being most likely in around February, probably. And the community forums are where it is open to everyone, to anyone who wants to come. So your advisory council, they sit as truly an advisory group to advise us in next steps in prioritization and feedback. How is it going? Listening and bringing back information for us so that we can design next steps. Then the community forums, and again, we'll have that group. And I told them on Wednesday, I said, so their charge will be for those community forums is to go out and find, every one of them, at least 3 people that they invite to have come back to the community forums. And we hope for more. We'd love to see 200 people at a community forum. It will be some of the same type of work where you're in tables. We'll have students, parents, community members, district employees at every table working through and processing the prioritized areas that we determine through that advisory council work to be the priority areas at the time. And so, and how we're, just kind of assessing how are we doing in these areas at the time. And that becomes a regular component and a regular process that we need to be doing that on a regular basis. And so it becomes routine, and that was part of our strategic plan and one of the action plan goals, that it would be a routine process. So it just becomes part of what we are and who we are and how we do work.
Yeah, I'll make one more
Yes,
comment.
go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. I just wanted to kind of circle back quickly to a comment I made in our pre-agenda meeting, and that's really kind of pulling out the teaching for learning aspect of our strategic plan. And I do want to acknowledge that although we're about people work in this district, that's our our core purpose is people work, but being evidence informed with that people work. So, when you talk about being value driven and data informed, I'm excited about the initiative that falls under the teaching learning aspect of our strategic plan, and that is the MAP assessment that Dr. Ritter mentioned earlier, the measurement of academic progress. Recently, we just had our first phase of MAP testing, and we've also are embedding the Scholastic Reading Initiative, which is really guided reading and a comprehensive literacy approach at all of our campuses. So we have taken what has worked well for us in Lamar, which demonstrated 82% gains in children's reading levels at Lamar. So we've taken that, and thanks to our Board of Trustees, they have put the resources where the need is, and we have expanded that initiative district-wide. So I'm excited about the measurement of academic progress along with our focus on math, with math solutions, and our scholastic reading, because we are now hitting the bedrocks of a quality education, which is math and reading, and certainly the components of the learner profile with that. So again, I just want to acknowledge our Board of Trustees placing the resources where the academic need is, and that in fact powers our strategic plan.
Absolutely. And I will add to that our plan for my department is over the next couple of months in our December board meeting, we will have Cherie Braden, who's our director of elementary curriculum and instruction, and her team here, and she has a facilitator of math and science, a facilitator of language arts and social studies, to just present the initiatives, our progress in our initiatives, what our data is telling us, and then also to share some comments and through a video of the teachers talking about the initiatives and how they feel that these are really helping them as teachers and helping the students. And then in January, we'll do the same with secondary with Shelley Huddleston and her team to present the same thing for secondary as well, so that you can receive those updates from them.
Great. Any other questions or comments? Okay. I've noticed on our plan it says the board accepts this strategic plan, but we don't have an action item to accept it. So
Right.
The assumption is that we accept it
Yes.
based on the way it was presented. Okay.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thanks, Dr. Ritter. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you very much.
Our next item, we don't have a report regarding our partnership with Goodfellow Air Force Base, although we are working on a program right now, the Starbase. Thank you. I get an update on that on a monthly basis, but on that it says that they graduated 1,869 students. 23 of our schools were served, a total of 9 school districts, and a total volunteer hours of 428. So this has also provided 6 weeks of summer academies. So if you enter, that's a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, and math. If you have if there's, students that might be willing to be involved in that program, that'd be great. But that's a project that we do in conjunction with Goodfellow Air Force Base. Let's move to our consent items. Item 7 on our agenda. Do we have a motion to approve our consent items?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Hernandez and a second from Mr. Parker to approve our consent items. Item A is consider donations. We have those listed on the overhead. We appreciate the San Angelo Band Boosters and also Clark's Auto Parts and Record Service for their contributions to the district. Item B is to consider our annual Title III program evaluation. Dr. Ritter reviewed that with our board team at our previous board workshop last week. Item C is to consider official appointment of the Board of Trustees of MHMR Services of the Concho Valley. These are, we approve these. These are 4 members who are currently serving, so all those are hoping and willing to serve in that capacity again. Item D is to consider bid number 18-028 for carpet and installation. That bid was awarded to Smith Floors. Item E's are based on our board action will be consider bid number 18-029, which is a % discount off NADA for used vehicles. Item F is to consider superintendent's recommendations for personnel for the school year for 2018, 2019. I think Mr. Kimball, we have 4 potential candidates for employment as part of our packet this evening. So do we have any questions or comments, or would anybody like to pull any of our consent items? If not, do we have any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 8, consider bills, accounts, and financial statements for the month of October 2018.
Move for approval.
We have a motion from Mr. Dennell and a second from Mr. Gallegos to approve our bills, accounts, and financial statements for October 2018. As I mentioned earlier in our in my comments, we go over this quite a bit at our previous board meeting, and Mr. Dennell does a great job of reviewing this as part of our board team. So do we have any board comment concerning our bills, accounts, or financial statements?
Mr. Lehman, just another note that all these reports can be found online on our website, SISD.org. If you'll click on the district tab, there's a subtitle under there called Financial Transparency, and all these reports all the way down and including our checkbook can be found online. And as Mr. Lehman mentioned, that we do try to go over, we do go over all these reports in our pre-agenda in depth to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Thanks, Mr. Dendel. Any other board comments or questions? If not, is there any public comment? If not, all in favor of our motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Item 9 is to consider a proposed amendment to the district's official budget in our general fund. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
We have a motion from Mr. Dennell and a second from Dr. Kingman. Do we have any comments or questions from our board team concerning our proposed amendment to the district's official budget?
Mr. Lehman, as a point of reference to this item on our agenda, there's a total adjustment of $3.7 million to our proposed budget for this year. However, most of that, a little over $2 million, is for just purchase orders rolled over for decisions that have already been made in the past. So those items are technically already funded. We're just trying to correct our accounting to make sure that those are reflected in this current year balance since they are rolled forward. So it really there is only a capital outlay this year of $1.6 million and some change.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Other comments or questions concerning our proposed amendment to the district's official budget? Is there any public comment concerning this amendment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. Our next item is item 10. Consider all matters incident and related to canvassing the returns and declaring the results of the board election held November 6, 2018, including the adoption of an order pertaining thereto. I love that official language. I've got those somewhere. So I think all we have to do is, we don't have to do it by precinct or voting district, but the San Angelo Independent School District Proposition A failed by those in favor were 11,586, and those against were 14,516. Again, that's Proposition A. Proposition B, the number 4 were 11,079, and those against were 15,026. So both Proposition A and B failed to pass. And I think that's all we need to do, isn't it, Becky? We need, we'll need a motion to approve, right? So we need a motion to approve the results of our November 6, 2018 school bond election and adopting the order pertaining thereto.
Make a motion to approve, I guess, the canvass results of the November 6, 2018 school board elections and adopt the order pertaining thereto.
Second. Okay, so we have a motion from Gerard and a second from Mr. Parker. So I had a motion from Mr., I didn't recognize Max's voice. I have a motion from Mr.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Gallegos and a second from Mr. Parker. Are there other questions or comments from our board team concerning us canvassing these results? I asked Becky to get with the election, folks for Tom Green County and to provide us a more detailed list of, how we did in each precinct, and she's going to work on that for us with the election judge and others. So we'll have that information as we move forward. But other than that, I don't think there's anything else we need to do. Is there any further board comment? Any public comment? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed indicate by saying no. Our motion passes. That covers our board, our agenda for this evening. Our announcements are item 11. So we've got our finance and pre-agenda board workshop on December 10th, beginning at 5:45. And we have a regular board meeting December 17th at the same time, 5:45. We also, thanks Becky for putting this in here, but we have Pay's graduation on December 19th, 2018. That's at 6 p.m. at Sarah Bernhardt Theater. So I know if you'll get with Becky and make sure that she knows who's going to accept the class and any other board members that might like to be there. I know that's kind of a highlight for our board team each year for us to take part in that graduation. And we have 2 graduations for Pays, students that are non-traditional students that are working on completing their high school requirements, and some graduate in December and some graduate with our normal graduating class in May. So just get with Becky if you plan to be there. Do we have any further board business? I don't think nobody indicated that we needed to go into closed session, and hearing no objection, we'll stand adjourned.